Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Welcome back to Whiskey Congress. On the phone with us from Los Angeles, California, our good friend Mike Wood Jr. Mike, how you doing, man?
I am very well. Good to hear from you guys again.
Steve is here in studio, which is always nice. Steve,
howdy.
Got to give a quick chip challenge update. My Pocky Carolina Reaper chip has arrived. We will arrange for the event to occur in the next week or so. So those who have accused me of ducking the challenge, I have not. I will stand and face the Carolina Reaper chip, and my friend Beth will be getting on with us sometime soon to hopefully suffer as much as me. I'm going to lose. I just want others to lose with me.
Listen, with my understanding of human biology, I feel like both your assholes are equally going to suffer the same fate, right? I mean, that's just.
I'm not authorized to speak on Beth's asshole's behalf. In terms of my asshole, I'm not looking forward to this. And Mike, I'm sure when you called from California where it's sunny on our 10-degree snowy day, you wanted to talk about my asshole.
I wasn't talking about it.
Okay.
He's letting us do
well,
all
speaking of, all right, so let's
Mike, do me a favor. Can you give me a little weather update on where you're at just to make me feel better or worse about my situation?
Oh, well, Jess just left to go to the pool to suntan.
Went to all right.
That's disappointing.
You brought that upon us, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just yeah.
Update.
Yeah.
Let's see what it says it says 80 degrees and sunny.
All right. I don't know why that had to happen.
It's 10 degrees here. I had to snow blow and shovel about 18 inches of snow out of my driveway and walkways. I lost feeling in my fingertips at one point in time because I stayed out there too long trying to help neighbors and everything else. So good. I'm glad you're well, Michael.
Yeah, glad you're not in cold. All right, so let's go from asshole to shithole, because the news of the week was Donald Trump referring to Haiti and African countries as shitholes and wondering why we don't have immigrants from good places like Norway. And Mike, you and Steve and I traded a whole bunch of text messages on this and other issues, which was always fun, especially because I was in from a night of spending time with comics, so I overslept and I woke up to half of that. So my take here is, you can say, well, he just said something that people think, blah, blah, blah. To me, it revealed a lot of things about his racial profiling and him just being an out-of-touch douchebag. And if you give me the respect the office speech again, fine, but I'm standing by my statement.
I'll jump off the respect the office thing for the moment.
Thank you.
Mike, I'll let you go ahead and jump in here because I know where you stand on this, but I'd like you to articulate it before I jump in. So why don't you go ahead and kind of fire off on your thoughts about President Trump and shitholes.
Sure, no problem. And one thing I have to say is I think maybe our text strings should be screenshotted and made a Patreon only.
Yeah, you definitely they definitely need to be someone has to pay for it. I don't want it just out there for free.
We're not giving that away.
And there definitely need to be some warnings.
Yes, it's definitely behind the scenes. You have to have a waiver or an NDA or something. But so I mean, basically, I think the issue is being framed in a way that's racial, that isn't racial. It is against certain governments, and those governments are shitholes. And there are states in this country that I don't want to live in, and because they're shitholes. There are cities that I don't want to live in because they're shitholes. And if you watch the liberals in their response, they're really pointing out all the ways in which America is a shithole in comparison to those countries in certain ways. And our education system is we're a shithole country in comparison to Norway's educational system. Yes. So for the premise of them even wanting to come over here it necessitates their origin being like shithole. Like this whole country is because England was an oppressive shithole. So I don't really understand the argument at all. And I want to point out that, like, Jim, you're calling him a douchebag. He didn't call anybody a shithead. So, like, whenever an argument is reduced to an ad hominem or to a personal attack, like, you're not taking the high road. Like, don't take the low road because he's lower.
I accept that I'm not taking the high road in this case.
Okay.
I'll own that.
This is what he's talking about, a government, though, and those governments are shithole government. They are. I'm sorry.
Fair.
Mike, and I guess part of your, your thoughts on this is through just experience, right? Like your time in the military, like you've been to places overseas and you've kind of seen how the government treat their people and why the people want to leave there, and you would describe that as being a shithole situation, a shithole government. So I get that, and my thought on this is, these places are places that people don't want to live. Everyone defending these places, like, do you really want to go to El Salvador? Do you really want to go to Somalia? Do you really want to go to Liberia or a place like that? Is that some place that you really want to go and live, and just not to go there on a peacekeeping effort or not with the Peace Corps, right? Because the Peace Corps doesn't go to places like this, right? The Peace Corps, this is where the Peace Corps goes, and they go there for a specific reason. They don't go to places like Norway. They don't go to places like France. They don't go to places like, Prince George's County in Maryland. Like, no, the Peace Corps goes to El Salvador. The Peace Corps goes to Ghana. The Peace Corps goes to Liberia, and they go there for a reason in Haiti, because these places are in bad shape. And the people defending it that are upset, like, you're not going to go. Like, you're not going there for any other reason because you feel bad about the situation. So I guess my issue is, he said what he said, and it was in a private moment. You're around people who you think the way that you do, and someone leaked it out and said, "Oh, this is what he said," right? Because they had their own kind of political agenda, their own sort of tactical thing that they're doing. There's a reason that someone leaked this. It was intentional, and it had nothing to do because they were offended by what he said. They knew that this was the reaction that was coming. Right? Like, so the motive of why we know this has something to do kind of with why I kind of push it to the side a little bit. And the fact is, if you're going to make a big deal about this, the fact that he called these countries a shithole isn't really my issue. It's that he immediately kind of turns around and says, why can't we get more people from Norway? Right? Like, well, we don't, like, no one from Norway needs to fucking come here. Right? Like, they've got fucking healthcare. They make plenty of money. It's peaceful there. They don't have a crime issue. Why the fuck would anyone from Norway come here? And the fact that you're the president of the United States and you can't think on your feet quick enough to recognize that no one from fucking Norway needs to come to the United States, that irks me that you run my fucking country.
Okay, are you going to go, Jim, or am I?
No, go ahead. All you, Mike. All you.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think you made a couple good points there, but I want to go over some of them real quick. I think that we missed the boat on a broad perspective, in that everywhere we see, even in the literature and in practical application, authentic leadership is this thing that's going to rule the future. And we're kind of offended because it's so unfamiliar to us. But the truth and the boldness of just saying that these places are fucking shitholes, like, why are we dealing with this? Think about it. And him talking like that, it's abrasive, but it is what people will adapt to, and it has a big reason of why he was voted to begin with. So I think it's really, when we're offended by that and we're not understanding it, it's because we're locked in these little bubbles.
Well, Mike, hold on.
Yeah.
So what about the idea that, like, so yes, these places are shitholes. I fully acknowledge that, but why are we dealing with it? We're dealing with it because their governments aren't doing what's necessary to kind of resolve these issues. So because the governments aren't doing what's necessary to resolve these issues, we get the people and the civilians from those countries who are living under oppression, or living in countries that are war-torn, or living in countries that are, devastated by natural disasters. And so, they have no place else to go but here. And so how do we resolve that with that kind of frank, honest analysis that these countries are places we don't, the fact that these countries are shitholes.
Yeah, I totally agree, but he doesn't know that. So he's just, if he's asking from a managerial perspective, if somebody that's only been in the seat of a CEO, he's saying, why do we have people coming in from these shitholes? Those aren't the customers we want. Change the verbiage a little and come from that business 101 perspective. And so he said, well, why don't we have the best customers? Which empirically in data, the best customers would be Norway immigrants. If there's a population of empirical data that would say we want these people in our country, it would be Norwegian citizens. So he would say, why don't we have the best customers coming in and we're getting flooded with bad customers? I want to set up a scenario where we get the best customers. That's understandable from an authentic perspective of somebody that's like that. And I think you made a really good point saying that the narrative itself is what is underhanded and immoral in this. Like the whole idea that the other presidents, for one, let me say this, and let's be clear since we're on the internet, Jefferson raped his fucking slaves.
Mm-hmm. Fact.
Okay. Yes,
fact.
True.
I mean, like
this
down
may be
fact.
this may be the least immoral president we've ever had.
Well,
It's just everything's on this. I'm serious. It's just that everything is on the surface, so we see it.
Well,
And
I mean,
it's like,
we can go back.
Obama called Netanyahu a chicken shit. Obama told Kim Jong-un he would destroy him with nukes. All of those things were said already and enacted in worse ways. That's my whole point, is that we're following a narrative. We're not following what is objectable, because from an objective perspective, not much has changed. And the idea surrounding like the whole left concept, of course, I'm way on the left side of the perspective, but the whole narrative comes out. Did you guys listen to the new Chappelle story? The new Chappelle.
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one.
The third one. Watch
the third one. The third
one is. It's masterful.
Well, and to his, I think Chappelle makes a point there where he says, Donald Trump, as much as he can't stand Donald Trump has given the majority of people something to focus on in terms of we all can't stand him, right? And I think to your point, it's that there is a narrative that's being built by the media, that's being built by the left, that Donald Trump he must be resisted. He is the enemy that everyone must destroy and defeat. And so we're getting an onslaught. I mean, when you go on Twitter and you just look at the Twitter handles, right? Not even what people are saying, like their names: resist Trump, defeat Trump, take Trump down, beat Trump, Trump's this, it's all anti-Trump, right? There's a wave of anti-Trumpism on the internet, on Twitter, on social media. And you listen to the message that's being projected from the left, that is, and from your progressive left and from your Democrats, which is being amplified by the media, by your CNNs, by your MSNBCs, by your ABCs and things like that, that, everything that this guy does is the worst thing that has ever happened by a president. And Trump does himself no favors from a media standpoint between his Twitter handle and the things that he says on Twitter and just his sort of matter-of-fact way of speaking around people who, have no allegiances to him or no loyalties to him. So when you take all that and combine it, like that goes to this narrative that Trump is the worst, and we amplify everything that he does, and then we ignore, right, like similar actions by prior presidents and prior people in his position of power.
Beyond that, not just other presidents, by the people making the claims that he's being racist or violent, by being racist and violent themselves. So, for example, it's not just Trump that they're talking about. They extend this to all of the people who vote for him, right? So this is like, right. If you support him, if you voted for him, you're just as evil as all this.
If you voted for Trump, I can't support you because right. You're a racist, or sure. I'm going to unfriend you on Facebook because you're a racist because you voted for Donald Trump.
Right. And so I went out and I traveled this country and I went into all the shitholes and I went into all the bad neighborhoods. And this is also what Chappelle does as a comedian. And so he said the same thing that I'm trying to say is I didn't see deplorables. Mostly I saw The same people stamped down by the same systematic oppression institutions, and they, like everybody else, want to see the end of the dramatic inequality. They just believe in going about it a certain way, and they don't have these racial undertones. They do like black people, as long as they're black people that see things their way. Amazingly, the same way that the left is saying they only like the black people that see things their way. And this is why I've really backed away from activism, because I can't get a discussion going, because my work is in ending oppression and the left's work is in becoming the oppressor.
What do you mean by becoming the oppressor? You're talking about the
because
left
if
is over.
you take out Trump, you're going to take out Trump. You're going to judge what's moral and immoral, and you're missing the boat, because this may make him look bad in media, but on the ground, this is not true. Everyone's going by the same poll numbers, the same shit that we just found out was ridiculous, relying on the same 17 intel agencies that we already know will deceive us and lie to us to become war criminals. You're relying on the same information and not learning a single damn thing. And so on the ground, in the backseat of the internet, in white communities, and in even black communities, his support is literally growing, because they're not the bullshitting too, and all of the lies of pretending that they're trying to fix something is being seen through, and the left is falling apart over their own desire to have this narrative that Trump is evil, to the extent that the dude can do something great and tremendous, and everybody still finds a way to paint it in some bad light.
Well, that's, and that goes to the idea that where I've been saying probably since he was elected and inaugurated that, everyone's been pushing to say, we got to impeach him. Let's use the 25th Amendment to get him out of office. And to me, that conversation in and of itself, it's ridiculous. And to me, it hurts the cause of the left and progressives if their cause is what they say it truly is, which is to, as you say, end oppression and, lift people up and help people. Because
it's not. I'm telling you from the ground and their actions, it is not. They want to be the oppressor. They say things like listen to black women, and they never actually mean listen to black women. They only mean listen to people who agree with me.
Specifically.
And it's like
right.
It's killing the whole movement
right.
of fixing
because you can't
and protecting Tamir's over.
Right, and because you can't disagree with people on the left, right? On anything, right? If you don't agree with them in lockstep in this idea that like every ideal that they have, then they attack you. They want to banish you. They want to silence you. You shouldn't be allowed to speak. They want to strip you of your ability to converse and articulate what you feel may be a better solution to a certain problem. And it is frustrating. And it is, I think, I think that it's worrisome, because if by chance in 2018 you see these congressional elections go in the way of Democrats, right, and they have the opportunity and they have the numbers to impeach Donald Trump, and then you combine that with this Mueller investigation where he's able to find something that is actionable enough, right, with Trump's dealings with Russia, right, and then they impeach him, right, and then maybe they impeach him and they impeach Pence, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of shit that has to happen. But if that happens, then that's essentially a coup, right?
Concur.
Yeah, that's a coup. My biggest problem with Democrats right now is they're basically, and I've said this to Steve before, they're basically doing their end zone celebration for 2018, and they're not even in the opponent's territory yet. I mean, the idea that the House is going to switch, I hear CNN talking about how, well, that's going to happen, and maybe the Senate too. And my thoughts are, what are you smoking? Because that is so far from a guarantee. And Mike, to me, and I'll be going a bit off script here, but when you
don't have a script.
I don't have a script.
We have no script.
That is also true. But I'm changing gears, is what I should have said. One of the biggest problems in sustained oppression of minorities and of people with lack of means is the fucked up education systems in America. And those are almost exclusively controlled by Democrats at the local level. No?
Yeah. zero pushback. I think. I mean, I want always people ever to remember what Baltimore is the expression. I'm sorry, but it's the expression of voting for black identity politic Democrats. That's the expression, and it's literally the worst city in the fucking nation.
Hard to argue.
Okay.
I mean, hard to argue. I mean, I think they just came out with the the crime statistics, well, at least the murder statistics for 2017 or whatever, and I think Baltimore was like number 3, number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, but it's the only city that I'm aware of that has a crime rise.
Okay.
Yes, that's actually that is true. That was borne out. There was an article that it just came out in NBC, I think just today, and it was stating that Baltimore definitely had a rise, and it has been a rise over the last, I believe, 3 to 4 years, where you're seeing other cities where the numbers, especially crime and violent crime numbers, are going down. Even Chicago's numbers. As much as Chicago is referenced as, what about the crime in Chicago? The crime numbers there are actually going down. They're still outrageous, given the number of people there, but I mean, those numbers are still going down. So to your point, those numbers in Baltimore are going up. They're one of the top cities in murder rates and everything else. And their public education system in the city of Baltimore is terrible. It's awful. I mean, you live there, and I, spend a lot of time working there just through my job, and so I deal with it on a pretty consistent basis. And I mean, it's an embarrassment. You want to talk about a shithole. What the families and the students have to deal with in the Baltimore public school system. I mean, those kids aren't getting an education. It's not education. Right?
No,
it is literally.
If you're lucky, it's babysitting.
Right. If at best case scenario, you could call it babysitting for 15, 16, 18-year-old kids. Right.
Well, I used to date someone who now works for the United Way, and she works a lot with the Cleveland inner city schools. And, some of the stuff, I'm not trying to do a pitch for the United Way, but some of the stuff that they do and bringing, they brought one of the Boys and Girls Clubs in Cleveland, for Christmas, books and games and jump ropes. And it was a really touching thing to see. I got to, of course, see it on her Instagram. But when you see what these kids are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, they're so far behind the 8 ball trying to get, anything that resembles just a place to be kids. I mean, in this case, we're talking, kids in 8th grade and younger. And so if you want to fix, I guess what I'm saying again, if you want to fix the trend of oppression, fixing the educational system and giving these kids a chance to change their lot in life is the way to go. And the fact that doesn't happen and hasn't happened for 50 years, whatever you want to call it, under,
Democratic leadership.
Under Democratic leadership. There's just no two ways about that. And as much as I'll attack Republicans on the national stage, I am equally critical and have equal little respect for Democrats on the local stage.
I mean, because you have to go to, what have you done? Right. If you're talking to Democratic leadership, the DNC, or whether it's on the national or local level, as a Black American, I the reason I stopped identifying as Democrat, a couple years back was I looked at our educational system. I looked at, crime. I looked at these different neighborhoods, and Cleveland's a city that, we've had a Democratic mayor for a relatively long time. This is Frank Jackson's 4th term as mayor, and Democrats have this is a blue area of the state for the last 30 years. And other places that I've lived, I lived in Chicago, I lived in Boston, or in Massachusetts. I'm from Northeast Ohio, so all I've seen is Democratic leadership, and everywhere that I've been where there's been Democratic leadership, I've seen shitty public schools and high crime rates. Right. I mean, and so my question is, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you continue to get voted in and you do nothing, but you blame Republicans and you blame the conservatives for being racist. And it's just like, well, I don't know if they are or they're not, but I know what you're not doing.
To me, that's the number one thing that has to change to break the cycle is kids don't need to. And it's easy also to say, if you drive 2 miles east of where we are right now, Steve, you're in a place that has a public school system that is very well funded, very.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to drive very far. You can go 2 miles any direction and find a better school system and everything else. But, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what happens 2 miles outside of downtown Cleveland, right? Like, basically, the neighborhoods get whiter. The leadership is, while they may be Democrats technically, right? Like, you have a bunch of people that are thinking
The
similarly.
tax base is different.
Right, like the tax base is different. The people who live there are different. Their priorities are different, and they're run different.
I think that's the biggest part, right? Because a lot of the inner city school systems are so administration heavy. I mean, if they had, half as many administrators and took those positions and made them teachers or put resources into the schools, things would probably head in the right direction. But there's a lot of power in those administrative positions.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's power, it's money. I mean, you have people making $80,000-$90,000 a year or more as administrators in public school systems. What are they doing? I don't know, pushing paper. But I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. That's a big part of the problem. But I guess to my point, though, is why is it, and we're a little bit off base here, but why is it that the black vote always goes to Democrats, knowing what we know, right? Just looking at the data, knowing what we know, why are we consistently voting for them, right? And the biggest problem, I think, is that the GOP does a shitty job, right, of just marketing, right? Marketing to different people, right? They market a certain way to their base, but if they want to bring in different people, they got to market better. Mike?
Well, I certainly don't believe the GOP is any better. I think they're really just the same thing. I'm of that kind of ideology that I kind of throw all of it away. But you guys made me just think of two really good points that I would like to highlight that I'm trying to get people to understand as a messenger. And that's what you're saying about the education system. So for the oppression to be true, it is necessary that if you're oppressed, you're undereducated. So to come from the position that you have the information, it's incredibly unlikely because you're lying, one of the two. You can't be in the position of information and knowledge and be the one that is completely oppressed and can't figure it out themselves, for instance. That just doesn't sell in the rest of the country. And if for the whole left's argument and why they even listen to me in any aspect is because there's this belief that my actions as a cop were racist and oppressive. I have that belief. I think my actions as a cop were racist and oppressive. And if you think that, then that means that you are fighting for a utopia that creates me being racist and oppressive. So I don't understand why you're saying Michael is an example of exactly what is wrong with the policing system and then fight for that very system.
Well, I mean, so, funny thing, Mike, I watched Baltimore Rising, and I turned it on roughly halfway in, and I'm watching it, and I'm basically watching people talk about your model for policing reform. And then I watched to the end, and I'm waiting in the special thanks to see your name somewhere, and it didn't appear. Then I watched it from the beginning, and I saw you're in it, and I'm like, okay, that's why you didn't get a special thanks to in the end. You were in it. Now, you were, in my opinion, you were undersold in that, and my guess is by design, by your design, that you really don't want to be the face of this. But all of that was about civilian-based policing that is your model. And I mean, we've talked for the last couple of years about how much that would change the way communities worked. Not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I did think that it was great to see that get some.
Actually, he is literally trying to blow smoke up your ass.
You know what? Drink your beer and shut the. Anyway. Anyway, no, it was funny. I mean, in that you were described as, I think you were an expert witness and a consultant. I'm like, yeah, he's a bit more than that. Now I'm really being an ass kisser. Fuck. But shut Steve. Fuck. All right. Anyway, it was really cool. It was cool to see you on there, and I did like that documentary a lot. Do you want to pitch that documentary at all, or is it pretty much done what it's going to do?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
What it's about? No.
Shut up.
No, I haven't seen it. I can't comment. But largely, if it is what it's talking about, then part of the problem is this narrative of looking for enemies and stuff and having these oppression Olympics. The simple bottom line is this idea and these models aren't going to take off yet. They're simply not, and the left is not going to rally behind them because I'm a white male. That's why. So we will continue oppression, and we will continue to proliferate oppressive police forces that kill Americans at the rate of over 1,000 per year because we're too caught up in our identity politics to even acknowledge a white man's information about a system that they have zero information about.
Wait, so just so I get this clear, are you saying that the system is holding you down?
No, I don't give a shit. The system's not holding me down at all, and that's what's probably more frustrating about it at all. Of all of it is that by me not being a narrative and by not being able to be a linchpin that could rally the left, I don't think that's even a possible thing, then the result is that I slip back into privilege.
Well, Steve was just having fun being a dick and basically claiming you were the oppressed white guy.
I think he's right though. I do agree. Like there's an important point there.
That's a skill he's got. He could be right and be a dick at the same time.
Listen, I think that, but literally the system, which is the progressive left, and the machine that is the whether you want to call it Democrats or liberals or progressives or whatever, they have a mission. And I don't think they have a single mission statement, but they have a mission, and a lot of that mission is about driving certain narratives presented by certain people who need to look and feel a certain way, and that image of who needs to be driving that message is getting further and further to the left. Right before it was, you could say it started with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and now I think if you had a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X today, the progressive left would attack them and shoot them down, right? Like you, Mike Wood, as a white privileged male, what do they call them? Cisgendered males or whatever?
Yeah, I think that's the term.
Which cis just always comes off so offensive to me, but we can talk about that another time. But you as a white male, especially being a former police officer and former in military, you have no chance of being the leader of a movement, right, for the left. And I think even a Malcolm X or a
Martin Luther King,
they wouldn't be accepted today as the leadership of the left. Now it's got to be like a transgendered woman, like it's moving further and further to the left, and their messaging is it needs to be all inclusive, and it has to agree with these certain ideals and these certain thoughts of progressivism and leftism. And if you disagree with any one of these, then not only can you not be the leader of our movement, we don't actually want you in our movement, period.
I don't know. I don't think they have morals. I don't think there's any of those platforms. And so when we were talking about shifting over to talking about Trump and porn stars, so how many people on the left do I see shaming porn stars right now? The fact that he came into an agreement with a porn star. Like, what are we, shaming porn stars? Are we puritanical on the left now? Or consensual adult agreements or something that is not praised? Are we not feminists now? What the hell?
Well, I think feminism has taken a form to where like the feminists are now attacking anything that doesn't fit within the feminist narrative, and they have decided that women doing porn that's not self-expression, that's not women taking control of their own situation, but they're saying that those are women who are being taken advantage of and manipulated, and they need help getting out of it, and we as a progressive movement are going to help them out of it, or we're going to shame them to death, one way or the other.
And that's called tyranny.
I'm fine with that argument.
I won't. I'm
not pushing back on that.
I don't argue that at all.
No, I do think the whole. So I actually put an article up on our website the other day, because apparently Trump paid $130,000 to what was her name, Stormy Bridges, Stormy something anyway, a porn star that he had a consensual agreement with right before the election because he thought they wanted to keep her quiet. And I'm thinking, why? He talked about grabbing women by the pussy and laughing about it. Why would a consensual?
I mean, if we're talking
affair,
political strategy, at the time when he paid her off, the statements about him grabbing women by the pussy hadn't come out yet. Remember, he didn't make those statements as a candidate.
It didn't come out. He made them as
he made them as a private citizen who wasn't running for office prior to him running for president. Which it's fine, right? But as soon as he starts running for president, then the statement is not fine. And then the whole situation with him paying the girl off is the evangelicals don't know that I'm into some pervy shit, so we need to keep this quiet because we need their vote because it's going to be a close race, if it's a race at all.
And my point is that the evangelicals are a bunch of phonies, and they had sold out long before that.
Right,
they had jumped on that bandwagon.
I mean, that's whether the evangelicals are legit or not isn't the issue, right? I mean, if you're talking about why he paid her in the timing, then from a political standpoint, I would have done the same thing. I'm just like, listen, we just got to pay her to shut up, right? I mean, it sounds like it was a great time or whatever, but we can't let this get out because the conservatives on the right, the far right, may take this and this could hurt us in the polls. That's why it happened.
As
a campaign strategist, that's the thought process there, and you can't really. Sure, I don't know if you can put too much deep thought into why you pay off a porn star to not talk about your relationship. Right?
Other than to say that if that story would have broken, it would have been called fake news, and it might be fake news. I don't know. I mean, I just know what the New York Times is saying and what I followed up on, but. Trump bragged that he could shoot a dude in the face on Fifth Avenue and not lose a vote, and he was right.
Well,
and so
when you
shoot a porn star in the face with a load, well, that you might add votes.
Well, I mean, the reality is when you're dealing, I mean, who knows? You don't know if she's got video or a picture or something like that. There's a reason why you pay her. Now, they only paid her $130,000, and only seems kind of like a ridiculous statement with when you're talking six figures, but. Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't want to speculate on what happened between Trump and this broad, but I mean, $130,000.
There's no evidence
of hush money.
No evidence suggests that he didn't pay her to pee on him. So I'm assuming that's what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I said that out loud. All right. Anyway.
Your jokes are always terrible, Jim.
No,
terrible. I told
Mike, both of you.
Mike, what did I say? They ruined my life. His jokes, especially his jokes.
Then your life sucks. If my jokes can ruin your life,
fair. I'm not going to fight
on you.
I'm not going to fight you that my life sucks. But what I will say,
you make me laugh. The jokes don't.
His jokes coming through on a text message, it's just like,
all right, the thing you reacted, it wasn't a joke, you jackass. It was a.
It was a statement meant to be comical?
No, it was a statement. Okay. All right. Anyway.
Can I do a thought experiment real quick?
Sure. Let's do this. I love where this is headed.
Okay. So for one, my talking to like evangelicals, I don't think that they would see this as a contradiction in their morals. And I'll set up the scenario of why. So let's say that you were a fat, out of shape, dumb white guy. And
I'm at least three of those things. Fuck you, Mike.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
So
you're getting a better laugh from Steve than any joke I could ever tell. But go ahead.
With ridiculous orange hair, and you grow up in America, and you get all this money, and you get famous, and you go around and you are touching and hanging out with tens. No matter what you do, they're okay with it. And then when you come back and talk to me, if you said to me, this is crazy. Ever since I've been a celebrity, they will let you do whatever you want. Even grab them by the pussy. I would be like, that's fucking crazy. And I would not think anything of what you just said. Because that is a crazy, from that perspective, you could switch it that everything he talked about in that was consensual. So the evangelicals aren't going to see a problem with him saying that women let him crazily do things consensually. They're just not.
They certainly didn't.
Well, so, I mean, and the argument though is, and that's where the progressive left comes back, is we have this Me Too movement, we have the Harvey Weinstein movement, and where that fits in, where like anyone who believes in that movement, I think, would come back at you and say, yeah, that is the problem. That in and of itself, the fact that just because he got money and became a celebrity, women were put in a position where they felt the need to allow him to invade their space, their personal whatever, is as much a part of the problem. And this guy is another poster boy for behavior that needs to stop, and he should not be the leader of the free world. I think that
they're down with breaking down the patriarchy. What they're not down is in framing it and in ridiculous aspects like this, because you're not even winning this argument with me, and I'm freaking left.
I'm not, Mike. I'm not that. Listen, I get it. We're being rhetorical. Okay,
but
all right. Just listen. I like to go. I like to go to the strip club. So just
ain't nothing wrong with going to a strip club.
I just want to add that I have this great regret, if I ever have one, and that's I've really squandered my ages between 18 and 54, where I could have been sleeping with rich white women.
Wait, how old are you?
Bank. I could have been paid so much for that. I really screwed up that opportunity, and so I do not shame any 21-year-old woman
who takes
advantage. Opportunity.
So first of all, your age is
37, right?
Right.
You got
you and I are the
years
same
to go.
age, right?
I know, but I'm married now. Jeez, come on.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was about to say. All right.
Whatever, Puritan.
I don't like because you went off into the military and then became a cop and then got married and had kids and all that other stuff. I didn't do all that. I went to college and played football and made it out with no kids and no STDs, and that is thumbs up all the way around. So we took different. We took D1
college sports with no STDs,
and I like going to strip clubs. It is what it is. So we took different paths. Anyway, so besides, I want to be done thinking of Trump with a porn star. That's giving me some issues.
Especially because you've probably seen that porn star. You probably have two
jealousy.
hours of her.
No. It is not jealousy.
It's jealousy.
It's not. It's not. Listen, it's not. Not.
Yeah, all right. But it is.
It's just gross. He's so gross.
Oh, it can be both those things. It can be jealousy and gross. Not mutually exclusive. You want to talk about the Leo mental health thing?
Yeah, I do. All right. So, Mike, you sent us an article on a bill that Donald Trump has passed regarding law enforcement officers' mental health and grants that the federal government is going to be providing to state and local authorities to help police officers deal with some of the mental stresses and stressors that they have to deal with as police officers. And I would like to just get your thoughts on this, because I think we just got done talking about Trump and how people don't want to give Trump credit for things that he does that are good. I believe that this is good. Is it a red herring, or am I okay in thinking that this is a good thing?
I feel like almost like I don't even care what the weeds of this are, that the stigma and lack of discussion around the two professions I have had are the two highest suicide rates in the world, in our country anyway. Sorry. And that's soldiers and police officers. Veterans are at 22 a day. And I have no idea what cops are, but the leading unnatural cause of deaths for police is suicide. And so I've watched this happen around me. I've had friends that have committed suicide, or both. I have 4 Marines that I know that committed suicide, and a handful of police that have done it. And the main reason around this is like the whole stigma. Your career is killed. You can't discuss it. Future jobs will shame you for it. Like, there's no place for them to go, so they hide in this fake alpha male, I can handle anything mentality. And as long as we hold up that as like our response to mental health, we are showing an incredibly problematic thing for people we're supposed to care about.
No, you can't. I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it. You sent that over, and my response was I saw it. I was at work, and my eyes actually lit up. Like this is a huge positive. It's just something that I think it's critically important for your law enforcement officers to be able to openly figure out what's going on inside their heads, especially when you're dealing when you have a number of law enforcement officers that are coming from the military that are dealing with these different experiences, and then they're kind of almost back in these militarized situations where they're on the streets and they're dealing with gunfire and gangs and drugs and everything else. They need an outlet. They need a way to figure out what's going on in their head. They need a way to figure out their shit. But the reason why I think that that this is really important is as a a black male, where and I live in a city where we don't have the best history with police and black people and black males specifically. It makes me feel a little bit better that these guys are dealing with some of their mental issues, and maybe, who knows, maybe a therapy session for a cop saves my life down the line. You know what I mean? And that's a legit thought for me, because some of these guys, you can tell they are just fucking wired. They are keyed up. They have these pent up issues and thoughts and everything else. And they pull me over because I drifted. I drifted over the center line, or it's wintertime and I've got snow on my license plate, so they pull me over because they can't read it, or because I'm a big black guy in a black truck or whatever. And maybe a therapy session or something like that is a difference between me being dragged out of my car in handcuffs and shot and tasered or whatever. And that guy.
You said somebody was going to drag you out of a car.
Hey, Michael.
That is preposterous.
All right, two people drag you out of a car.
14 people drag him out of a car. We wouldn't even try that. You just get shot, dude.
Is that the training manual?
I just get shot in the car, like not fucking with all this noise. But anyway, well, all right. Thanks for ruining that.
You're right though. You're totally right.
But and that's why I thought it was important. I wanted to talk about it because I believe that this is something that you can say, listen, this is good by Trump. He signed it.
He doesn't deserve a ton of credit. He signed something that was the right thing to do. Good for him. This isn't his legislation.
Listen,
hey,
that's
it's
the
a good
job,
thing.
Right?
True.
Listen.
Not everything he does is wrong. I agree.
It's like with quarterbacks in football, right? They get too much of the credit and they get too much of the blame. Right?
Totally
it
true.
is what it is. It comes with
true.
the territory, right? He's the president. He signed the fucking bill. He could have not signed the bill.
True.
Right. Listen, I've watched him. I've watched him sit there and look at things. Like there are things he should have signed where he said, "No, I'm not going to sign this. Screw this." Right. And he signed it. This is something he easily could have said, "I don't see the point in spending money on this. And I believe our police officers are whatever." I mean, he could have easily spun this.
Here's where he's been so inconsistent, in my opinion, because he's been so pro cop on the local level, but so aggressively against the DOJ and the FBI. And
the pro cops on the local level aren't investigating.
That may or may not have something to do with it. I'm going with probably does.
I don't know if that makes you a. I don't know.
Guys.
I don't know if that makes you Dick Tracy.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Mike.
But the FBI and the CIA are like the least trustworthy agencies like in the entire country.
CIA, I'll give you.
The FBI too. They just. I mean, they don't. I'm sorry.
Just because they flooded LA with drugs in the 90s and denied the whole thing, you're going to paint them all with a big broad brush. I don't know how you do that.
It goes way more than that. It goes way deeper than that. Anybody can research FBI corruption themselves. I mean, Hoover used to run this goddamn country because he blackmailed fucking everybody. The FBI and the CIA are historically lie to you about everything and are politically driven for the agenda of the elite oligarchs, not the interests of this country. Those are corrupt organizations that should be destroyed or rebuilt.
All right, so a long time ago, Steve and I had an argument on our old show, and I basically said that there should be 50 police forces in the country, one per state, and they should all have these state police regulations and training standards, and that there shouldn't be a federal police, and that resources should be shuffled to, meet the needs of a given state. I don't know if I've ever said that to you, or if you and I have ever talked about that, Mike. I guess we probably haven't. You could.
I mean, I'm okay with that, but you're not going to eliminate a federal police force.
I know what would happen. I'm just saying I'm pie in the sky here.
I think you're going to have interstate travel, and you're going to have cross-country issues, and you're going to have national issues. So you must have a federal police force. I don't think there's any way around it. I think the utopia situation is a small federal force and really no local forces.
I think that okay, as long as those federal forces are held to training standards and
just investigations. Remember my idea of policing is that SWAT teams and violence is only for the shit hitting the fan. It's only for life and death situations.
Like true life and death, right. Which means we would have to redefine those things, right? We would have to redefine what truly is a life and death situation and take away some of the.
No, we don't. That's easy.
Go ahead.
We've done that. The military's you can't do anything unless you have an actual imminent threat to yourself or somebody else. It's perfectly fine.
Okay. So back to this on a local level, there was a cop in Arizona who was recently acquitted of shooting a civilian in a hotel hallway.
He wasn't acquitted of shooting him.
He was acquitted of murder. Okay. He was acquitted of criminal charges for gunning a dude down who was faced. So we've talked about
acquitted of murder.
He was acquitted of murder.
Right? Like there's no argument that he did not shoot this guy.
Fair enough.
Because there's a video of him unloading multiple rounds into an unarmed guy.
Oh, thank you both for.
Well, it's not an attack on you. It's really.
Yes, it was, but it's fun. He's got a big grin on his face.
As bottle caps.
You bring it. Anyway, so the video, this is one of the most compelling videos in terms of, in my opinion, bad policing I've ever seen, because I did not see a threat there. I'm going to say something, Mike, that tell me I'm an asshole if you want, but it looked to me like this cop was looking for an excuse to shoot the guy. Okay. So I'm not wrong?
I don't know what he was thinking, but I think that's a reasonable inference.
Okay. All right. So
wait, Mike, did you see the video?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. So I don't want to get into the mind of what the guy was thinking, and that's where I think media and pundits and people, even in our situation, get in trouble. I don't know what the guy was thinking. But what I do know is I feel like there was a better way to handle that situation.
You think?
Gee, really?
Killing him?
Okay, now I'm Sherlock Holmes now. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm the one. Wow, way to break this out, Steve. You're so good. Oh, there was better than mowing him down with an AR-15 in a fucking La Quinta hallway. Well, I go on.
Oops. So that being said, I think there was a better way to handle this. Other than shooting the guy, right? And listen, I've never been trained as a police officer or a SWAT team member, but even in that situation, right? Like even in that situation, what's weird is that this is even before what happened in Vegas, right? If what happened in Las Vegas had happened, right, and this happened in Arizona a couple weeks later, that situation. Right, while still inexcusable, I would say, all right, I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt. You just had a horrible situation in Vegas where a guy had a room full of guns and mowed down however many people. Okay, maybe, right? But this actually happened in April before what happened, because the Vegas shooting happened in October. It happened in Arizona. So it just seems like, aside from the obvious that it could have been handled better, even in a SWAT situation, given the information and the fact pattern of what we know, they couldn't have. So the guy, like, if you watch the video from beginning to end, the SWAT team comes into the hallway. The guy and a girl.
Whoa! Why are you calling him a SWAT? He's not SWAT.
I thought they called it a SWAT. Or maybe
I thought
maybe got mislabeled on a video I saw, but I saw SWAT.
No SWAT member has ever been trained to act like that.
I'm not saying they were trained to act that way. I'm saying that dude.
If I saw a SWAT member act like that, I think they the nuts, fired, and like thrown out of the man club.
Well, he did get fired.
Well, I mean, he did get fired, but Mike, I'm almost positive that that was the That was the local SWAT team for that jurisdiction.
I hear what you're saying. They might be calling them that, but this guy did not go to a SWAT school and come out. There is no way.
you know, funny story, Mike. I went to West Virginia over Thanksgiving, and I went deer hunting in southern West Virginia after visiting my mom. So I stayed in a hotel, and I brought 2 rifles into my hotel room, and dumb shit that white people do. Oh, well, actually, funny thing, I actually went to the front desk and said, I have 2 rifles in my truck. I don't want to leave them out in the cold. Can I bring them in? And I was in Morgantown, West Virginia, so...
That's literally a Chappelle skit.
Well, I did not get shot, but, you know, the fact that I felt... The funny thing to me is that Arizona is an open carry state. So in theory, you could walk through the lobby of that same hotel with an AR-15 strapped to your chest, and the NRA would say you're being a patriot and a good citizen, where the same guy gets shot to death for having a fucking pellet pistol. And where the fuck's the NRA?
Jim, you get tripped up on this.
I do, because I fucking hate the NRA.
In every state, right? Like, I mean, like you have these shootings that happen in open carry states all the time. It doesn't fucking matter, right? I mean, and listen, but I get what you're saying, right? It's a way, like, whether it's accountability or the NRA or blah, 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 we know the position of the NRA, right? Like, the NRA is not about, they're not going to go and fly in the face of the police lobby, because the police lobby has put a lot of money into the NRA. And why is that?
Well, true, but the NRA used to lobby for silicone-coated bullets, which were specifically designed. They used to have the nickname cop killers. They were specifically designed to go through body armor, and the NRA defended that.
Why?
Because of money, I know.
Okay,
but it's also because they support the Second Amendment.
Right.
I mean, this is the problem with the Second Amendment that I'm constantly talking about.
They do support the Second Amendment, but as it fits the agenda and as it fits the money, right? Like they support.
No, they do that in rhetoric. They, in policy, always support the Second Amendment.
Okay, but their definition of Second Amendment is shall not be infringed. Their whole well-regulated militia thing kind of gets swept under the rug, and it's just no, it doesn't.
No, because this has been settled by the Supreme Court. It does mean anybody. This is settled in law. That's the legal standard.
Okay, are we talking the NRA now? Or are we talking about
No, what the Second Amendment means legally in this country is not that beginning thing of a well-regulated militia. The Supreme Court decided that it means everybody. That is following the law of the land. Come on, lefty.
I'm
My thing is,
do not call me Steve Carlton again.
My thing is,
that was a reach. Anyone who got that, enjoy it. If you didn't, sorry.
The NRA, I agree with you on rhetoric versus policy, but like the rhetoric of the NRA is almost as crucial as the policy. Like the policy is standard that they believe in. Everybody should have a gun, and just here's all the bullets and ammunition that you need, shoot them up, which is problematic in and of itself. But the rhetoric is very specific and tactical and is equally as dangerous as the policy. Right?
Yeah, but it's not them. It's the people that are funding them, because they're the people who already voted to get the Supreme Court in place, who would write the law in a way that it would structure that the Second Amendment was viewed in a manner that would ensure that the war industrial complex and the gun ownership complex keeps growing and making more and more profits as time goes on. So,
but the NRA has as much.
The NRA, yeah, we're missing the forest though. Remember that. The problem is still in the dramatic inequality. It's not in the NRA, because if we would have actually had a republic, then we would still have a Second Amendment that was reasonable. And if some people stand by this idea that we should be listening to the laws of our society, which is the absolute premise of a society, we must follow those laws, then legally what the NRA should be doing is arguing to follow the law. So I just, like, even though the outcome is bad, it's not like hypocritical or anything.
All right. So I understand the legal I understand the legal interpretation there. I still say that if the NRA was going to defend the rights of citizens to open carry, whatever, that they should be calling out. They should have been funding the lawyer for this guy's family and his wife's civil suit to say, this law-abiding citizen was gunned down inappropriately. And this is a white cop shooting a white guy. What?
Why? The cops buy guns too. They want fear on both sides. You're not going to try and alleviate fear from one side.
And that's where the rhetoric aspect of this gets. That's where the rhetoric aspect is the dangerous aspect, and to me, is more dangerous than the actual policy in and of itself. Right? If it was just the policy, then that's something that we could deal with and manage. But when you have the NRA and the lobbyists and everyone, whether it's the actual group, the NRA, or the manufacturers of weapons, or the people who just like to shoot shit, right? When you have all of those entities all fighting this fight of we need to be able to shoot how we want to be able to shoot, when and where, and who we want to be able to shoot, and then kind of disenfranchise those, or not disenfranchise, but exclude those we don't want. Like that's where it becomes really, really dangerous. And my thing is, listen, if the NRA is, this is what should happen. Black people, black men between the ages of 18 and 50, everybody go get your CCW. Every single one. As long as you don't got a felony, if you're a black male between the ages of 18 and 50, go get your CCW. And I guarantee you shit will change with the NRA and their message.
Better yet, black men between 18 and 50 start exercising your rights and open carry laws. We're going to lose some of you along the way. Sorry.
Right. Like Philando Castillo.
I mean, that's the ultimate example of just like
exactly. Like where were they on that? And the fact is that one of their biggest spokespeople is Colonia. His name's Colin
Noir.
Yes.
Noir.
Thank you.
And he's a smart guy. I like his YouTube show. I like a lot of what he says, but then he gets caught in these moments of truth to a certain extent where he's got to toe the party line or the group line or the NRA line, and he doesn't do it gracefully. It's awful. And it's an embarrassment, and it's hard to take him serious. Like, his show is fun. I mean, I like guns. I like some of the different stuff that he does in terms of the different aspect of gun culture. And he just came out with a new design of a H&K, and it's VP9, which is ridiculous. But in these situations of shit that actually matters, when you have people being gunned down in the street by police who are doing everything that they're supposed to do from a legal standpoint, and he can't say the right thing, then you lose all credibility with me.
I agree. Let's get back to Shaver in 1 second, and let me read paragraph 1 of chapter 45 in my book, Indian Crimes and Punishment. There's my plug. In the 21st
well
century.
done. Well done.
Good job.
So I don't think you guys read it yet, obviously, because you still argue with me about some points I've already specified. But
I've read
chapter 45 is weapons and gun control. Let me just read the first paragraph, because I think
this is about monkeys and boomsticks. I've read it.
Right. It's largely my point. So we are all mentally ill. It is a condition of being a barely evolved ape. And nowhere is this more obvious than in the interaction of great apes and death sticks. The soldier is trained with weapons because those weapons make him stronger. A police officer who carries a firearm does so under the assumption that it will make her more powerful. Skilled use of weaponry makes one stronger than they were before. The weak become stronger, and the strong grow unstoppable, while death accumulates. Soldiers kill, police dogs kill, spouses kill, children murder, and even toddlers will kill with a gun in hand. That's paragraph 1. And as long as we live in this context, I don't believe there are solutions.
I have read that chapter. I think I read it in the manuscript you sent me, but and that was a point for me being cool.
I fully agree with that, right? I mean, we have to reduce and eliminate the number of and access to guns, period. Right?
Boo.
Well, the guy who wrote the book.
The guy who wrote the book.
That's
yeah.
who.
I'm with you.
Okay,
I'm with
I
you.
already know you.
So, but
I thought that was so obvious that it was rhetorical.
okay. Well, it was to a certain degree. I was just hoping you would just give me some sort of an audible thumbs up. What is it? Jinx.
One, two, three. Time.
Oh my gosh!
I hate your mother.
Pinch poke. Oh
You don't hate my mother. You've met my mother. She's very
She's
nice.
a lovely lady. I just needed to say something that was off. She's a very lovely lady. But no. So we have to reduce the number of guns. We have to reduce the access of guns. I fully agree. I am on board. Clearly, that's not happening anytime soon, right? And so while that's not happening, we have to work with what we have.
And I don't think you can avoid Daniel Shavers under this context. I don't think it's possible.
I disagree.
What do you mean?
Mike, no, I can't agree with you because there's so
wait.
many people who are in his same position who don't do the same shit.
Yeah, I know, but I understand, like, there's statistically, you even have just the outliers. I don't care if you're all-wheel trained. Again, we are apes. We will malfunction. We will.
Okay. That
fine.
was a pretty bad
We're
malfunction.
going to have them. All right.
Okay, fine.
Was Daniel Shaver murdered? He was murdered.
Yes, Daniel Shaver was murdered, but he didn't have to be
criminally murdered. He wasn't.
Again, we agree on that. But that guy, whatever, how old? I think he was
26.
Yeah, he was in his middle 20s. He didn't have to die. The cop who killed him, yes, he malfunctioned. And I agree with you. As humans, we're gonna have people who break. Even if you take even if you take guns away, you're still gonna have humans who break, who snap, who do shit that they're not supposed to do. But he
does have to die.
What's that?
As long as you accept a police force that uses violence to enforce the laws that you create, this is the logical, known, predictable, unavoidable result.
Oh, yeah. What? All right.
You're saying it's gonna happen statistically as long as the law of the land is the police get guns, they have free range to use those guns, and this is in your book, and I'm doing a very poor job of paraphrasing. But as long as we have a police force that is authorized to kill, right, with very few limitations on their authority to kill.
No, zero limitations. The standard is a perception of fear.
Right. I mean,
zero standard. That's zero. That's no standard.
We've talked about this.
So
before.
as long as that's the standard, people are going to die at the hands of the police. And it's not. And
we talked about Philando Castile earlier, but let's talk about that Australian woman in Minnesota that got shot. I mean, that trial has not happened yet, or that legal action has not happened yet. But she got
known predictable outlier.
What's that?
Known predictable outlier.
Okay, but you want to bet that guy walks? I bet he does.
He will.
Yeah, he has to. It's. I mean, and even if he doesn't, he's just going to be fired, or at best, it's manslaughter. It could be manslaughter because you have improper weapons handling in that case. But
I can
I'll bet he walks.
But with that guy being with him
but
being
who cares? Even if he goes to prison, it's not justice.
True.
Who cares?
Right.
True.
It's so, but with that situation a little bit different. He's a Somalian immigrant, and I could see that going. I could see that where he ends up in jail for an extended period of time.
Totally.
It won't be justice. He'll be going to jail because of who and what he is, not because of what he did, and that will do nothing for her family.
Okay.
Even if it's what he did, it still won't matter because he'll just be replaced by the exact replica.
Who's not Somali?
Right.
Or even is.
Or
the higher process
in,
doesn't give a shit.
In fairness, you're right. All right.
The elite use the oppressed to enact their oppression. They don't care.
That again, I wish I could argue that, but I cannot. So when I was so Steve and I have a policy where when we're coming here, I drive him here. He gets a lift home because we do drink whiskey during our show in case that's a not so well guarded secret. While we're driving here, we were listening to the news, and there was a missile scare in Hawaii. The first missile scare of my adult life, and since my adult life is 10 years longer than both of yours. Fucking
it's so funny. I'm sorry.
What's that?
It's so funny.
What, that I'm that old?
No,
I am
missiles.
the
I mean,
missile
it's
thing.
Missile scare?
so funny.
God, get over yourself,
God, it's
Jim.
hilarious.
Well, I mean, the crazy thing is that literally a text went out to the citizens of Hawaii who subscribed to this thing that a missile is on the way and you need to seek shelter. And it took 38 minutes for them to acknowledge that the missile scare was not accurate. 38 fucking minutes. 40, almost.
Don't you see Julian Assange and Edward Snowden rolling their eyes right now? Being
Yes.
Like, oh, you fucking stupid
Yes.
Americans.
Yes.
That's what I see.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Steve. I don't want to steal your thunder. Go ahead and tell me what you said.
Listen. I am easy to be sucked into the too many spy movies that I've watched over the course of my life, and I firmly believe that now, Michael, I know where you stand out on this, and I'm just going to say it. You firmly believe that there's just an idiot who works somewhere near missiles that hit the wrong button, and this is because people are stupid.
No, this went out over the cell phone, so I bet you this is an idiot that works at fucking AT&T or something.
Okay. Either way, you're going to
You
chalk it
don't
up.
trust these things to fucking AT&T.
Agree. I fully agree. I think that I don't know. I think that there was an actual missile launched and they shot it down. Nobody saw it. They were able to cover it up.
No
and they're telling,
way. Shut up.
I'm telling you, it happened. Screw you. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
No, I can't disprove a negative. So,
well,
yeah, I can't disprove God either.
Okay. Well,
but yeah, I
But you've
totally
tried.
think.
No,
Listen,
I'm with you.
never underestimate human ineptitude. Go one step further and never underestimate government employee ineptitude. I have been in charge of them since I was 18 years old. I have been herding chickens in a professional nature for 15 years of my life. Never underestimate ineptitude. I had an officer run a lady over by running a red light in a crosswalk because I asked him to come help me. I certainly didn't mean run over some lady in a car. I could never have
Did you say?
anticipated that
Did you
level of
say? Did you
ineptitude.
say? Did you say? Don't run over a lady. No,
I did not.
Your
because
fault.
I could not foresee such levels of ineptitude.
I worked with a guy who said that you should never attribute to malice what can be easily blamed on stupidity, and I think that's exactly what you're saying.
That's a famous person's quote. I forget who that was. It's like Carl Sagan or some shit like that.
Okay, I buy that.
listen, I won't disregard the fact that this probably happened because someone's stupid. But I have to say that there's a little part in the back of my mind that says, I don't know. Maybe some
Where do you think the missile came from?
I don't know.
North Korea,
I don't know.
clearly.
Maybe it came from North Korea. Maybe it came from
Are
China.
you serious?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, that's another
maybe.
thing. Let me
I'm
watch
joking.
this.
I'm
Here's
joking.
what's going to happen. Trump's
Maybe.
going to usher in peace in between North and South Korea.
Hey, good for him. Do it.
Watch it happen.
Hey,
Because
if he's good cop, bad cops, peace in the Korean Peninsula.
No.
No, okay.
He doesn't good cop, bad cop it. He does. Listen, he is management 101. This is the course that I took back in undergrad sometime and read some bullshit book by some first, rate researcher that hasn't even thought some shit from the 70s, like Saul Alinsky. That's essentially who Trump is. So whenever he's doing anything, think business 101. When you hear him take an extreme left position or extreme right position, some kind of crazy thing, that is him going to the far end of the deal. He's like, bitch, I want $1 million for that $500,000 property. And then everybody's like, oh my God, you are crazy. We're not paying over $750,000 for that. And he was ready to sell it for $600,000. He laughs and goes, you fucking dummies, because he takes an extreme position. And his position to Kim Jong-un was like, look, I'm not going to sanction you. Let's be honest. I can fucking blow you up. I'll fucking blow the whole goddamn thing off the planet. Let's see how fucking tough you are, really. And then Kim Jong-un goes, hey, South Korea, you guys want to have a peace meeting?
Well,
Because compromise becomes a victory.
well, that's kind of what I'm saying with good cop, bad cop. It's like now you can blame America for all of the fucked up stuff, and now North Korea, South Korea, we can get together and our missiles are pointed at them. Let's play nice.
Just like Jerusalem. I'm sorry, like I'm pro peace in the fucking Middle East, obviously, and I think Israel does crazy shit from time to time. But Trump said if your decision on peace is predicated upon an arbitrary position of the U.S. embassy, you had no intention of peace, and that is
all right.
impossible to argue.
I can't argue that at all. And I mean, Steve put an article on our website about the way Palestinians are treated in Israel, and I think that's one of the most underreported atrocities that are backed by the U.S. I mean, Palestinian citizens are living in a way that make.
Wait, we have military forces in like 75 countries that we occupy. Do not ever think we get the chance to judge somebody's actions. We're the only country that dropped a fucking nuclear bomb on innocent citizens.
Okay, no, I mean that
we have no high road.
I wasn't trying to take a high road. Actually, I was trying to take a low road and saying.
But you can't, like, even if you say that that's bad or what they're doing, like, we have no place to say anything's an atrocity.
Hold on. I can't call what's happening to Palestinians in Jerusalem an atrocity?
No, because what would be an atrocity is us fucking proliferating it. That's an atrocity.
We're definitely complicit in the atrocity. I can't argue that.
We send hundreds of millions of dollars to Israel.
Yes.
We send them. The Golden Dome is ours.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, what I would say, Michael, is just as two observers, right? Two guys who don't get to vote where the money goes. We don't get to pull the levers on, how that money is spent. Just as two people observing, you got a really shitty situation in Israel, Palestine, and for me, it's a complex issue for me. I have friends that are Jewish. I have friends that are Palestinian. My daughter's daycare provider is Palestinian, their whole family, and they tell me these awful, brutal stories. And it just, and they're firsthand. They're not like, oh, my cousin said, or I heard one time. These are their life experiences, and they're pretty rough, and I relate to them just as people, and I think it's fair on a human level just to relate to other people. And I get what you're saying, like as Americans, with our overall political and government and everything else, like how dare we call out anybody because of the shit we do? Yeah, but let's just be people, three dudes, three guys, just who are empathetic to situations that are happening to other people. And when I see what's happening in Palestine, it rips my heart out. Right. And I get that the Palestinians have done shit to the Israelis and the Israelis have done shit to the Palestinians. And as a Black American, right, like understanding like the actual history of Black people in general, like back in Africa and how the culture on the continent was completely raped and decimated by multiple cultures across the world. Like technically, like Black people shouldn't have sympathy for anybody because we get fucked more than anybody out of this whole thing. But at the end of the day, just as an American, right, as the all-American kid that I am, that sometimes just I am what I am. I'm just saying that the situation in Palestine is a fucking mess, and what's happening to those people is just it's gut-wrenching, and I hate it. I don't have an issue with Jews. I don't think the Jews are the end-all be-all. I don't give a fuck that they own the studios or whatever. I wish a lot of this shit just wasn't happening, and I wish that there was a better answer, or there was an answer to bring peace to that region. That's all that I'm saying. I don't know what Jim was saying. That's all I'm saying.
There are better answers. Like, we can start modeling better answers. Like, I guarantee you, I don't know the numbers. We can look them up. Somebody can break it down and find it for us. I guarantee you that Israel kills a lower percentage of unarmed Palestinians than American police officers kill Black unarmed citizens. Guarantee it.
We should look that up. I mean, if that's true, that's scary on a bunch of
like,
now, here's the deal.
Fix this shit and show them how it's done.
Well, Michael, I won't argue with that. Now, here's the thing. I have my argument with U.S. police in the treatment of citizens is that how is anyone comfortable with the fact that our police kill 1,000 people a year? Right,
Crazy.
Right, like I mean, people are just willing to chalk that up as, oh well. I mean, it's just a small. I mean, like if you take the total number of people in the United States, it's not that big of a number. It's a drop in the bucket. I'm like, that's a fucking big high school class. All right, that's 10. Like in my law school class, we had 100 students that came into law school the year that my first year in. 100, right? So that's 10 years worth of law school classes that they kill every fucking year.
Well, if it was all lawyers, that wouldn't be.
Go fuck yourself.
And I don't know what. That's funny. That was actually funny.
Thank you.
And there's only
Thank
like
you.
300.
I hate you both.
I don't remember the numbers, but I'm pretty sure it's like 300 that are unarmed.
Right. That's the big number. I mean, when a guy is actively shooting at a cop, no one is saying, okay, that
no one cares.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, we do not care.
Right.
Like, even in Baltimore, we've had people where the story was, cop walks into 7-Eleven, sees a guy rob, and it shoots him in the head, kills him. And you know what Baltimore says? Okay.
All right. Well, it happens. Don't rob 7-Eleven.
And that was Tuesday.
Right. Right. Well, sometimes, yes.
But I mean, I guess, and even still, like our police kill 1,000 people a year. That's to me, that's unacceptable.
It's a big number.
But if you want to sit there and say, oh well, I mean, of those thousands a year that they kill, 700 of them are armed or known criminals and they were doing something that they should have been killed. All right. Well, you've got 300 of those 700 who were unarmed. Right, so 300, we're a little bit more accepting of the number of 300 unarmed people, right? Like that's the part where we can say, all right, somehow we're still okay with that. And my thing is, all right, even if it was just those 300, right, we just completely disregard the 700 people that are armed, but the 300 people a year that they kill that are unarmed, right? That's still
and the fact that those 300, 299 are not charged or walk away with being treated as if they did their job well.
The police officers
killed them. Yes,
right.
Is the problem, right?
Right. I mean, because you're still dealing with. I mean, like the comparative numbers are 300 people. You ask the people how many people work in your office, or how many kids did you go to school with, grade school, high school, whatever. There's so many different ways to relate the number of 300 people that get murdered by police officers every year. Right, and you take that number and you extrapolate it over 5 years, 10 years, the last 15, 20 years, it should be more disturbing to people, any person that's a normal human being, that's empathetic, that has a fucking soul, to say, you know what, that is unacceptable if we are the country that we say we are.
Right.
And as a professional in the field, we have to view every single one of those, all 1,000 and some, as a failure. We literally failed our mission.
Yes.
But did you, though?
If you use Jake's mic because you said failure at the same time.
Well, I gave up on that because it's weird.
Yeah,
but
it is
I
kind of weird.
Is it a failure, though? Is it truly a failure? Given that, the mission starts out with, you're allowed to kill under pretty much any circumstance.
Yeah. Okay. So it should be it should be a failure. Yes.
Okay.
Currently, it's not even measured. It's not even tracked. The country doesn't even take it seriously.
Right.
We only know this because of a British newspaper.
Right.
In Britain, a British newspaper.
The Guardian is the only fucking reason why we have the numbers that we have on it. It's ridiculous.
A British newspaper. Because we are a shithole country. Bring it back around.
Bring it back around. Okay, so bringing it back around, we started talking about text messages between us, and you said a text message that was basically something to the effect of, if you would not date a tranny, you are some kind of an ist. I'm doing a shitty job of remembering what you...
No, that's about it.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay, so I... call me weird. I've actually had... a few I can't even say tranny anymore.
Wait, hold on. Just get to where you're getting, because I'm confused and concerned.
Oh, are you confused?
I don't know. What are you saying?
No, well, we're talking.
You said
it was sexist if you're not attracted to or not willing to date a trans woman.
And then I'm a sexist or whatever. Call me weird.
Right. I mean,
I'm a sexist.
Here's the deal. Listen. Dating in and of itself, by design, the word dating to me is synonymous with being discriminatory, right? Like, you don't just, like you don't walk.
I face ageism all the time. These 25-year-old chicks want nothing to do with me. I don't get it.
Yep,
I do.
So, Jim, I mean,
God.
you can just.
There's a fetish for everyone, though.
And I explore that.
You can just poke a hole in a tire real quick. But listen, it doesn't. Just because I don't want to date you doesn't mean that I have some sort of a prejudice, right? That needs to be called out as a social abomination, right? I don't want to date a tranny. Sorry, that doesn't mean that I want you to fail in life, and I don't want you to have a job or a family, and your kids should be punted and your puppy should be eaten. I don't want to date you, and I don't want to fuck you, right? Like that just is what it is. Like I like women. I like women who have tits, and I like women who have vaginas and assholes, and it's always been that way. I don't like
it's
dicks.
Female first, I understand.
I don't like dicks. I don't like dicks in my presence, and I don't like knowing that there was a dick somewhere where there is no longer a dick. I don't like the dicks other than my dick. I like my dick. I don't like anyone else that I'm having sex with either having a dick currently or has previously owned and been in possession and had on their body a dick, right? A real dick.
Would you?
Right, like not a strap-on dick. I'll take like listen. If you're a girl who used to fuck her boyfriend with the strap-on, I'll deal with it. But if you actually had a dick that you grew, I don't want to have sex with you.
Mike, it's best to let him go with this.
I'm sorry.
Would you blow your clone?
Wait.
That was one of the weirdest questions I've ever heard asked.
Would I?
Steve answer that.
I mean, I feel like based on the parameters that I just set, the answer should be no, right?
It should have been yes, because the only dick you like is your own.
Oh, victory, Mike Wood Jr.
I'm just curious. I was just trying to
if this was a bullfight, you just landed the spear.
I don't know if
I love this.
well, the fight's over. I mean, I don't know.
Flawless victory. Anyway,
listen,
I mean,
I'm not blowing anyone, including my clone.
including
I'm not like that. Like
you
that.
clonist.
Fine.
Okay. You were just like, you see yours as like art. So you like, maybe like if no one knew, you would like hang a picture of it up or something.
No, not
Okay,
it,
well,
not
that's
There's probably
different.
an actual idea.
That's different. I mean, if we're just talking about admiration, right?
I'm just curious.
Just a picture of, right? It's just like, if it's like just, an artistic picture, then okay, fine.
Yeah,
but,
good lighting and everything. Yeah.
Right. Right?
Some
ambiance, warmth.
ambiance. I cannot think of a better way. Actually, I can't think of a worse way to get out of this conversation. Mike, can we close this down for a second, and can you just stick around and just goof off for a bit for like 10 minutes afterwards?
What does that mean?
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna pause this. We're gonna end the episode.
Okay, as long as it has nothing to do with anybody's dick.
No one's dick will be involved
Other than my dick.
other than yours, which is the only one in this world that matters. And
That matters to him.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
You just said my dick was the only dick in the world that mattered.
I want to.
We're getting sidetracked again.
I'm about to punch myself in the dick as
But
penance.
Steve's point we have to remember is that it's our mixing up of sex and gender. Like I am willing to admit that I would not sleep or be attracted to anyone that is probably not a female. But if they were a masculine female, can't say I would have an objection to that right off the bat.
Wait, what? Wait.
If
Pause.
it was a female,
okay.
right? Say you have a female.
Yep.
Remember, gender and sex are separate.
Yes.
So what are we talking right now? Gender or
the
sex?
ultimate point that you're making, and that I would make too, is that we have to begin with female as your born sex.
In terms
Yeah.
of who we're having sex with.
Right? I would have fluidity, and I would have more buffer when it comes to masculinity versus femininity and man versus woman. So even if you were born a female and you identified as a male, we could possibly, I can't cut that off.
Oh,
But
okay.
you have to be a female.
Right.
Right. So you could be a butch chick.
Yes.
Like, so that's what I'm saying. It's not even the man thing. It's not the man thing.
I think
thing.
Pink. I think Pink is kind of attractive in some ways.
She's not. Well,
You're right.
Well, you better back up.
I was trying to help.
I like Pink a lot.
Did you just
Back up.
I do too. She's not.
She's not butch because she's got short hair. What are you? What's wrong with you?
There are things about Pink I find attractive. I like her music.
Because he doesn't like. She's got a black girl body. That's why.
Yeah,
Could be.
True. Right.
And this probably makes me a racist. All right.
Hold on. I'm not done with this. I'm not done with this. I'm saying.
Oh, no.
Well, because there's some clarification that need to be made. Following up on Mike's point, he's absolutely right. A butch woman or a woman that identifies as a man, that's still a woman, that started as a woman, that's still a woman, that hasn't been in the realm of surgery, has a vagina, I'm open to. Right? Whatever. Right? You know, whatever.
My standard is so low.
Right. Like, whatever her deal is, right? Like, emotionally or whatever, however she dresses, I don't give a shit. When I pull the clothes off and all the mechanics are right, I'm in. Right? Now, once she goes around and has a doctor things up, then I'm out. Right?
All right. I'm going to tell Mike the Amsterdam story when we come back.
Okay. Make sure it's the abridged version. But
I will make sure it's the abridged version.
But once you start dealing with, like, from a sexual standpoint, once I start dealing with someone that either has a dick or had a dick, I'm out. And the reason
that
why
does not make you
it doesn't because my dick doesn't work. Right? Like, if you have a dick, then
under those circumstances,
my dick is just not going to work. Right? Like, it's just not going to happen. So it doesn't make me an is. It just means
there's drugs for that.
Thank you for listening to Whiskey Congress.
Why I don't want to take drugs for it though. I could. Okay. Anyway.
Right. You don't know that yet.
Right. This has gone off the tracks, and I fucking love it. This has been Whiskey Congress.
But that being said, hold on. That being said,
yes,
I got no issue being friends with or talking to or having a conversation with or working with or hiring or firing or swimming with or having my daughter interact with or whatever your gender fluidity situation is, do you be you. I just am not sexually attracted to you if you don't fall in this certain group, and that's okay.
And that's what dating is, and that's what attraction is. Yes.
You're a sexist.
Perfect. Out.
And you're skinny.
You're skinny.
Mike.
We're done. All right.